So you might be wondering, what is URI Cooperative Extension? Since 1914, URI Cooperative Extension has been providing research-based knowledge to the community to help people solve problems. It's a tradition that URI shares with over 100 land-grant universities throughout the United States. In the beginning, we supported farmers and homemakers with science-based solutions to make farms more productive and develop strong rural communities. Fast forward 100 years, and Cooperative Extension has evolved to meet today's challenges. We now help Rhode Island communities protect water resources, improve land stewardship, foster energy literacy, promote healthy lifestyles, and strengthen our food and agricultural system. How do we do this? Cooperative Extension partners with URI scientists to bring cutting-edge research results to our stakeholders, from homeowners to business owners, and more. We take pride in our ability to translate science for practical application and deliver it right to you. There's no shortage of information in today's digital world, so as you search the internet for answers, please consider coming straight to URI Cooperative Extension. We've got science behind us. URI Cooperative Extension brings exciting research discoveries from URI to you.
We hope you enjoyed that video. This is a joint effort between the Cooperative Extension and the Business Engagement Center, and we look forward to hearing from our friends at the Cooperative Extension. Today's event builds on the discussion that took place at the Rhode Island Food Center's 2021 Food System Summit in January. We hope this event will help continue the conversation and help us as a community to move forward to greater food security for all Rhode Islanders. As I mentioned, we partnered with URI Cooperative Extension, who's organized this event for you today. Today's speakers will talk about their new program, Food Recovery for Rhode Island, which teaches us how to make the most of our food by changing the ways we shop for, store, prepare, and preserve and compost food. To kick off the event, I would like to introduce Vanessa Venturini, who will kick off for us off for today. Vanessa is a URI Extension educator and a twice alumna from the University of Rhode Island. In her role, she is responsible for managing Cooperative Extension programs, including the Master Gardener program, where she helps to lead efforts to educate citizens in Rhode Island on environmentally sound gardening practices through dissemination of research-based information. We're excited to hear from her today and the program she will be running, Food Recovery for Rhode Island. Welcome, Vanessa.
Thank you so much, Catherine. So welcome, everyone. I am so thrilled to share with you our new program currently under development that will enable Rhode Islanders to learn something new and then take action to strengthen the local food system. My name is Vanessa Venturini, and I have worked for URI Cooperative Extension for the past 14 years as an educator and as a program leader, and I'm really passionate about program development. Thus, I am so proud to present to you our brand new extension program that we hope could be a national model for community-driven engagement and food equity in Rhode Island, Food Recovery for Rhode Island. As you heard from the video, Cooperative Extension is our community-facing arm of the university. We are the land-grant university for Rhode Island, and there is an extension program in each state across the United States. And our whole focus is bringing science-based resources out to the community. So today we're going to start with a little overview of our brand new program, Food Recovery for Rhode Island. We will then hear from a few of our community partners in a panel-style presentation, and we hope to have enough time for questions and answers at the end. So let's go ahead and get started. So everyone on this call may be aware of these two twin challenges with our food system and how they've gotten worse over time. In terms of food waste, it's our number one component of our nation's landfills, and each year about 100,000 pounds of food waste are entering the Johnston landfill. By reducing wasted food entering the landfill, we can make many environmental gains, including conserving all of the energy and resources that it took to bring that food from farm to plate. And at the same time as food waste is entering that waste stream, We also have this major issue of food insecurity that's gotten worse over the past year during the pandemic, where we now see 1 in 4 households lacking access to adequate food. And this may be due to the pandemic, job loss, disruptions in our supply chains, lack of access to regular school meals, a host of issues. So with these two kind of intersectional challenges, with this program, we're seeking to amplify solutions that simultaneously address both food waste and food insecurity at that community level. And so food recovery for Rhode Island will be focused on amplifying the good work that's going on in the state around food recovery. We'll be allowing individuals and communities to choose those solutions that work best for them. Individuals will learn how to take action in their own lives and then apply what they've learned to community scale solutions. So this whole idea of collective action at the grassroots level. I've been the state program leader of the Master Gardener program for many years. And there I've really learned this power of the model of, training folks in a subject matter and then sending them out into the community to do good work and improve people's lives and environmental quality. And this program will use that same principle. So the mission of Food Recovery for Rhode Island is to come together around the issues of food waste, food security, and the environment, to learn something new, engage in a dialogue, really that community conversation that we're trying to stoke, and then volunteer to support community-driven change. And so this is a little schematic of the train the trainer process, where we're amplifying our impact within local communities. So our extension staff is small and faculty are small but mighty, but when we empower volunteers to learn something new and then deploy into the communities to educate others, we can reach thousands of people. And so this is how the program will work. Individuals from across Rhode Island will enroll in the 6-week food recovery course. And that course has both an online education and a field experience each week. And we're going to go into a little bit more detail on what you'll learn in the course. Graduates then receive a certificate of completion and go out to complete a 40-hour volunteer internship. And there they'll be working with our community partners and helping to support those community-driven food recovery efforts. And after you complete your 40-hour internship, you become a certified URI food recovery volunteer, which we hope will be kind of a beautiful, marketable moment for you. And so you may be wondering, what is food recovery anyway? And so I will bring you through this lovely food recovery hierarchy from EPA. And I'll also take this moment to mention that the program development is funded by the EPA, by a grant that we have. And so this schematic was developed to help people adopt techniques that reduce food waste in their lives and their communities by applying this food recovery hierarchy. And the graphic helps prioritize actions that prevent and divert food waste through various management strategies, whether that's reducing the source of the surplus food, feeding people, animals, all the way down to composting. And the top levels are the most preferred because they have the most benefits for the environment, society, and economy, with the landfill being our last resort for disposal, our least preferred method. And so this course will bring people through the various elements of that food recovery hierarchy. And so our goals over the next 2 years are to educate and train 120 food recovery volunteers who then, through that amplifier effect, educate 2,500 people. We want to divert 60,000 pounds of food waste from the central landfill, donate 40,000 pounds of food for Rhode Island families, and then establish, I think this is one of the most exciting portions, either establish or support existing efforts of service projects that support food recovery at the community level. And we'll go into more detail about that in a moment. So I think what's really unique about our approach here is this idea of the community, driven change model for extension. We're coming in and amplifying the existing good work that already exists in the community through training, access to volunteers, and access to resources within the university and expertise as well. But the solutions are not going to be this prescribed one-size-fits-all. The solutions will come from within the communities themselves. By supporting these community-driven efforts, we increase the chance that the food recovery behaviors will be adopted in the long term. So basically our community partners will be leading these various service projects in the community that reduce food waste and increase access to local food. And some of our community partner organizations will actually be sending individuals from their cohort through the course to learn about food recovery and then return back to their own communities and educate others as peer educators. And we've seen this peer educator model be really effective in other extension programs, and we're excited to apply it here as well. I think what's also unique is that we have a really interdisciplinary project team and collaborators. I'll start with our team, myself. I have an environmental science and management background and a lot of experience with volunteer management and program development. Then we have Nessa Richmond, who is our primary partner through the Rhode Island Food Policy Council, where she's really tied into what's going on in the local food system and all of the wonderful community partners that she's brought to this project. Then we have Dr. Rebecca Brown, who has expertise in sustainable agriculture, and she has been an incredible mentor for us. Thank you, Dr. Brown. I actually drove by her this morning, and she was out in the agronomy field at URI doing her thing. So we are so grateful to her. And you'll hear from Dr. Missimer, who has her experience in nutrition. And so you'll hear a little bit more from her momentarily. And so our various community partners, our first three are the hosts of those service projects. So Sankofa, Hope's Harvest, and Groundwork, Rhode Island, who you'll hear from momentarily. They are all of the organizations that will be hosting those service projects for the food recovery volunteers to go out and do good work. And then we have various collaborators at the bottom, and these are really where that food recovery expertise comes in, and they're providing various levels of program support and expertise as we develop our curriculum and engage the community. Okay, so now it is my pleasure to introduce my counterpart, Dr. Amanda Missimer, who will go into a little bit more detail about the Food Recovery for Rhode Island course.
Thanks, Vanessa. And hi, everyone. Thank you so much for coming today to hear about our program. This has been a labor of love for Vanessa and I pre-pandemic. We actually wrote this grant before, so it's been a real roller coaster adapting it, and we're so excited to share it with you today. As Vanessa mentioned, I'm Amanda Missimer. I'm a clinical assistant professor in the Department of Nutrition and Food Sciences and Cooperative Extension. I'm also a registered dietitian, and I teach many undergraduate nutrition courses here at the university, and now I get to focus my efforts on food recovery, which has become a real passion project. So this food recovery course for Rhode Island has 3 iterations that we're planning so far on this grant. So the first iteration will be this coming fall, and both Vanessa and I were excited about that because fall is a beautiful time in Rhode Island, and that will be a hybrid model. Of course, everything is pandemic pending. Then we have 2 other iterations planned in January, which will be a fully online version, and then the following spring, which will be hybrid. So here is our course design and layout. As you can see, it's a 6-week course, as Vanessa described, where all individuals from across Rhode Island can show interest and apply to be members of this course, participants of this course. There are 2 components each week. You have your online component, which will be approximately an hour and a half of education each week. And what's really exciting about this education portion is that it's comprised of many experts from across Rhode Island in both field experience, practical experience, traditional knowledge, because there are so many different aspects of food recovery, and we wanted to make sure that we can grab as many experts, both from URI and the community, as we can. So those will be happening at the beginning of the week, and this is an asynchronous course up until a certain time in the week, so you can really work on this asynchronous portion at your own time. Then we have our field experience, which will be complementary to that week's theme. And by field experience, we mean you get to get out and do some hands-on learning, really what's happening out there. And that again will be about an hour and a half per week, where you practice or learn a skill that you've talked about earlier in the education component. At the end, there'll be a graduation celebration. We already have so many hopeful places in mind for where we'll be able to celebrate our 6-week food recovery course graduation. And from there, individuals will then begin their 40-hour internship at the community site of their choice. Within the course, there'll be times where you're introduced to all of the different community partners and volunteer organizations and communities. So you'll be deciding which interests you the most and which you want to participate with. So as of now, we are still pending on our enrollment. So the cost will be approximately $200 to $250 for the course. There are going to be financial awards available. And the total time estimate is between 18 and 24 hours for the course over 6 weeks, and then the additional 40-hour internship. So here's an example of our, of course, pandemic pending hopeful schedule for the fall of 2021. This is going to be focused primarily in the upper state, just to get us off the ground. But if you look on our left, we have our weekly themes. And you'll notice that the first week is the challenge, which is something Vanessa already described. And that's pretty much the only week that we're going to be talking about the issues across Rhode Island. And then we're going to focus the rest of the course on community-driven solutions. So you'll see we talk about farms, schools, and communities and how to treat wasted food. And then we also have the other end, which is food aspects, where we talk about nutrition, food preservation, all of those things. And then we also have composting, which was one of the sections along that food hierarchy. And then lastly, we're going to talk about inclusive community engagement. So all of our volunteers feel prepared and ready. We're going to have dialogues and leadership on how to enter communities. The field experiences will be complementary to the weeks as described. So here are just some examples of places we're hoping to coordinate with. So we have the Rhode Island Central Landfill, the localized food systems, perhaps in areas of Providence, such as Sankofa, World Market. We have our nutrition and food preservation lab, where we have specialists in canning and food preservation, various compost locations across the state, and also youth education with another cooperative extension program, 4-H. At the end of this program, again, there'll be a graduation celebration before we're ready to head out into the community. Along this 6-week course, there's also a personal food recovery project. So this focuses on individual behavior change within those 6 weeks. So before the class starts, we will have what we call the low-hanging fruit of food recovery at the individual level. And you'll be able to think what most applies to me. Is that saving my scraps to make a broth, or is it attempting to vermicompost? And throughout the 6 weeks, you'll be tracking your goal with all of the participants in the course. So you'll be supporting each other, talking about struggles, talking about successes. And then at the end, you will have a successful 6-week food recovery related behavior change that you now can incorporate into your life, hopefully, or into the lives of others. Our course principles were really developed with the idea that there are so many experts, wonderful work happening in Rhode Island. Let's work on getting them all together. So we really focused on finding experts across food recovery in both food waste and food access, and bringing them together, not only for the teaching of the course, but also for the review of the course and at our community site. So we're really trying to infuse the experts, not only from URI, but from the community across the course as well. As Vanessa mentioned, this is a community-driven program, so we really want to meet people where they are and think about all of those things from the community aspects, and think about how the community can drive their own solutions, increasing the chance of longevity. So we're focusing on things like practical knowledge, traditional knowledge. We have a large equity focus, which will be discussed throughout the course. And this, again, is open to all Rhode Islanders on inclusive community engagement throughout, both at the education and field experience levels. So what can you gain from taking this course? First, you'll learn more about food recovery in general, so more about individual solutions for yourself and also solutions for your communities. Talking about food, the environment. Again, we talked about monetary and environment and food access, all of those things and how they're so interrelated. You'll build individual skills and practice those skills each week. You'll meet like-minded people who are interested in the same things you're interested in and engage in exciting dialogue. Take an action towards change as we work toward decreasing the lifespan of our food access and also increasing the lifespan of our landfill. Finally, you'll experience the power of collective action as you work together in both these individual settings and in the community. So if you're interested in participating in our course, we hope that you'll visit our brand new website, and the link is there, and hopefully it can make its way to the chat. And coming at the end of the month, we'll have an interest form, and I'm sure we'll be following up with you, but please check it out for, again, a repeat of this information, learning more about our community partners and volunteer sites, and we really hope to see you in the future. Thanks so much.
Great. So I am pleased to introduce our community partners next in our panel discussion. Again, these organizations will be leading the food recovery efforts within the community, and we're thrilled to support their good work and amplify it as well. Each organization has developed a service project that will allow our newly trained URI food recovery volunteers to put their newfound knowledge and skills into action. After completing the 6-week course, the participants will then volunteer on these service projects that are led by one of the following organizations. And all of these service projects have that common intersectional goal of leading to a reduction in food waste entering our waste stream, and then increasing access to healthy food, culturally appropriate food in the state. I'll note that we are seeking 1 or 2 additional partners. We want to have 5 total organizations to join our Food Recovery for Rhode Island team. We'll also be open to other folks sharing their good work so that communities can kind of see model practices and adopt those as well. So we encourage you to reach out if you're interested. But our very first organization leading us off is Melanie Borges. She is the Sankofa project manager at the West Elmwood Housing Development Corporation. I am so pleased to introduce Melanie.
Thank you, Vanessa. I appreciate it. Good morning, everyone, and thanks for being here with us today to learn more about what we're up to. As they said, my name is Melanie Borges, and I lead the Sankofa initiative at West Elmwood Housing Development. We're very, very, very excited to be a community partner with URI on this really important work. Sankofa was born from the need for culturally appropriate, fresh, locally produced food in the West End. We transform blighted properties, provide affordable, fresh produced food, and we try and expand economic opportunities for our West End residents, try and meaningfully connect and foster cultivation of lands, lives, and communities. So we do that in 3 main ways. We have a community farm, which involves 30,000 square feet of garden space, which is organized into 67 garden beds. So we have 3 big community gardens, a community greenhouse for folks to work in, as well as a community kitchen for up-and-coming culinary professionals to start their food businesses, and a community farmers market, which happens each season. This season will start on June 23rd, but that takes place at the Knight Memorial Library on Elmwood Avenue, where our growers have a chance to gain financial revenue, selling that delicious food that they grew. Our scope of our project that we're excited to kick off in this important work is going to be a series of workshops led by our community educator, Georgina, who is the owner of Abundance Farm, Rhode Island, which is a farm that is housed in the West End at one of the Sankofa gardens. So having her as a community leader, leading workshops in preservation, smart shopping. She'll be doing tours of community gardens as well as farmers markets to raise access and awareness of the food system that's in place already, so that our neighbors and our community can learn through that. And following the access and the tours, like I said, she'll be able to have these educational workshops where she's actually teaching preservation. We will be collaborating with the Sankofa chef to do a recipe using ingredients purchased at the farmer's market. So it's going to be a really exciting series to see kick off. I know one thing that we're very, very, very excited about is bringing the education and the resources that URI is brimming with right down to the community with us. We're very excited to host this and to have it in our space. So again, URI, we're excited and we're ready. And for everyone listening right now, the Sankofa community is geared up. We're ready to go. So thank you so much for having us. And I'm, looking forward to chat with everyone more and take any questions later on.
Thank you, Melanie. I think it's really unique how the Sankofa initiative really brings you through all aspects of the food system. So we're so glad to have you on our team. Next, I am pleased to introduce Amelia Rose, who is the Executive Director of Groundwork, Rhode Island.
Hi, everybody. I am also excited. My name is Amelia. I'm the Executive Director of Groundwork, Rhode Island. I'm going to be followed by Katie Murphy, who is our Harvest Cycle Composting Program Coordinator. Groundwork, Rhode Island is a community-based nonprofit. We have an office in Pawtucket, but we work all over the state. Our mission is focused on creating economic opportunity for Rhode Island's urban residents, while also creating environmental sustainability and doing physical improvements in urban communities to improve the environment. We're part of a national network called Groundwork USA that has affiliates all over the country in small and mid-sized cities that work on a variety of projects related to land revitalization and youth engagement and employment and all sorts of different things. With Groundwork Rhode Island, our main programs focus on adult job training. We have an environmental services job training program. We have we hire people from the job training program for our own landscaping service that does stormwater management and other types of landscape maintenance and design build projects. We have Harvest Cycle Compost, which Katie will talk about in the specific project that we're doing with URI. And both of those, Ground Core and Harvest Cycle, are both social ventures that raise earned income for our organization and employ people who live in the communities that we serve. We also have a Green Team Youth Employment Program, which focuses on high school students, and they are also involved with our Harvest Cycle composting program. And so all of those aspects of our organization, we try to kind of bring together, collaborate, and do joint projects. And we're very excited to be part of this food recovery effort. We think that it will just enhance our work to have a stronger base of volunteers to be helping us with our composting program. And so we're very excited to be part of this. I will hand it over to Katie.
Hi, everyone. I'm Katie Murphy. I run the Harvest Cycle program at Groundwork. The Harvest Cycle program is, I think, one of the coolest things about Providence, about Rhode Island. It's really exciting to be part of a project that is about recycling food material back into our ecosystem. We have about 280 households around Providence that participate in our program. Either by pickup, we pick up by bicycle all around town, or by drop-off. We have about, I think, 80 households right now that are participating in drop-off programs. We have 8 restaurants, and all of the food scraps from all these places are processed right in the city. We do most of our processing at Ring Street Garden, which is Groundwork's community garden in Federal Hill. We have just started our second processing hub, which is really exciting. We're working with Fox Point Community Garden in Fox Point. And we are bringing a small amount of our food waste that we pick up on the east side to that hub. And we also are working with the community. We started a drop-off site, so folks from the community can bring their food scraps to Fox Point Community Garden, and we'll process them there. And then the finished compost that is produced by this program is used right in the garden at Fox Point and also at Ring Street. So I love this program. And when I first joined, I was excited mostly about the environmental impact. Compost obviously has a huge impact on climate change. Some people know this, but when food waste degrades in a landfill, there's no oxygen in a landfill, so it produces methane, which is something that happens in an anaerobic environment, or in an environment without oxygen. However, when you make compost in your backyard or at a composting facility, you are turning the compost pretty much continuously. And that adds oxygen to the process so that there's a little tiny bit of carbon dioxide produced, but really not much. And the methane is pretty much none if you're doing it correctly. And the payoff for this in terms of reducing greenhouse gases is huge. So that was what I was excited about when I first started. But over time, as I've gotten more involved with Harvest Cycle, I've realized how important it is in other ways. Compost, when you're finished with making the compost, when you have a finished compost product and you add it to the soil, it adds organic matter to the soil. And the percentage of organic matter in the soil is basically the same thing as saying how much life is in the soil. So by adding life to the soil, we're basically regenerating urban soils. That's particularly what we're focusing on here, but like worldwide, we have a huge soil desertification problem. So compost is really, really important in that sense. What a really cool statistic that I heard recently was for every acre of land that you add a percentage of organic matter to, that draws down a ton of carbon dioxide from the atmosphere every year. So not only does compost help divert food scraps from the landfill, which stops methane from being created in the first place, it also draws down carbon dioxide once it's applied. So I thought that was really cool. But I think the coolest thing that I found yet is just the role that compost can play in transforming a neighborhood, especially a neighborhood in the city, a place where people don't necessarily have that much access to growing space or know much about their community garden, place where maybe folks don't have access to fresh food in their neighborhood. By creating compost, we are creating a resource that has kind of a Midas effect. It basically turns something that is considered a liability into something that is a resource that is valuable, that can be used in terms of adding value to the soil, adding nutrient content to what is grown in the soil, increasing yields, or also it could be sold, and that value can return to the community that the compost is produced in. And for that reason, it's really important to Harvest Cycle that we are composting everything as close as possible to the neighborhood that it's created. So instead of sending all the compost out of the city to sort of some larger scale industrial compost center or a digester or something like that, we're trying to do it as hyper local as possible. That makes it possible to collect the food scraps on bicycle. It makes it possible for people to carry the food scraps to the garden, and it also connects individuals in the community with their garden. They're more likely to be able to get a plot. They're more likely to be able to get some additional food security from being connected to that garden. So we think that's super, super important. And also it creates jobs. And that's kind of what Groundwork is all about. So currently we have 2 processing hubs. We're really hoping we're in conversations with lots of gardens. As soon as we set up our second one with Fox Point, we've gotten emails from 3 or 4 gardens around the city. Hey, can you build a compost site here? And we want to work with you. We want good compost for our garden. We've tried to do it, but we don't know how, or it's really hard in the city. So we're really excited to be able to share that knowledge and work with community gardens around the city. And we're definitely gonna have the volunteers from the URI program be involved with that. We are hoping to use some of the money from our grant to build new compost systems at 3 new community gardens around the city. And volunteers will be dispatched to different neighborhood sites. So that's it for me. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you so much. And maybe we can hear a little bit more about the green team as part of our Q&A. Thank you so much, Katie and Amelia. So excited to support these food hubs of our compost hubs that are developing throughout Providence. So I just wanted to make a quick note that don't forget to all of our participants here, don't forget to ask questions of our partners or the Cooperative Extension team. We'll have a lot of time for Q&A left over. And you can do that by commenting right on the video. Okay, last but not least, I am pleased to introduce Ava Agudelo. She is the founder and executive director of Hope's Harvest Rhode Island, and they'll tell us about their work in the field of farm-based food recovery. Ava.
Hi, Vanessa. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really glad to be here and glad to be partnering on this project, not just with URI, but with all of these really amazing partners doing such good work in the community. So Hope's Harvest Rhode Island is Rhode Island's first farm-based food recovery organization. We mobilize volunteers to recover surplus food from farms, and we distribute it to hunger relief agencies around the state. I usually start talking about Hope's Harvest by talking about some of the challenges we're facing. I know Vanessa had mentioned food insecurity being on the rise, where we are now at a point where 1 in 4 households in Rhode Island are experiencing food insecurity. And I think it's important to mention that a lot of hunger relief agencies are trying to address this problem, and there's wide understanding that there's different types of food that are more nourishing than others. And so fruits and vegetables are extremely important when people are experiencing food insecurity. No judgment, there's lots of different ways to eat and lots of different ways to nourish yourself. Like, I get nourished spiritually by ice cream, but we also need fruits and veggies to be healthy. And so at the same time as we have these issues of food insecurity, there's also quite a lot of food that goes to waste on farms. We call that surplus because the idea of food waste is a little bit different on farms where there's excess food, and we're trying to figure out how we can put it to its highest and best use. So nationally, there's an organization called ReFed that does a lot of research on food waste. And by their estimation, about 17 million tons of food is wasted annually on farms. And that's 21% of the total amount of food waste that is happening across the country. About $14 billion worth of food annually is not being consumed that's grown on farms. And people often wonder why that happens. No one's doing anything wrong in that situation. Farmers are really great at growing food. That's what they do well, and we appreciate that. And one of the ways that they do it well is by growing enough so that even if there's bad weather or there's a lot of pest pressure, they still have enough to meet their markets. But what that means is that sometimes there's extra. If the weather is really good, or if you see drought or too much moisture, too much rain, that can impact the yield. We also see ugly food, so food that is too big, too small, has maybe some cosmetic issues. All of that's still totally edible. But the thing is, farmers can't send their workers out. They can't pay people to pick that food if they can't sell it. So we want to make sure, again, that that food is going to its highest and best use. Healthy, fresh, locally grown surplus food is often going to feed animals, or it gets composted or tilled into the fields. And composting is great, and that's a good carbon capture opportunity, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's good for the soil. But if it's edible, we think it should really be going to its highest and best use. So Hope's Harvest's mission is to improve the livelihoods of local farmers, increase food security for Rhode Island's most vulnerable residents, and get everyone involved in strengthening the food system by eliminating on-farm food waste in Rhode Island. So it's a really perfect partnership with this project that URI is working on, and we're really excited to be part of it. How do we do that? How do we do that work? It's pretty straightforward. We recruit volunteers from the community. We bring them out to farmers' fields. We provide equipment, we provide training, and we show them how they can harvest that food. We supervise that. We provide our own trucks and bins and bags, and we get that food harvested and out of the field. Sometimes we sort food that's already been harvested to get all that edible food out. And then we coordinate with hunger relief agencies to distribute that food to people who are in need. So we don't distribute food to any individuals. We just work with food pantries. We have worked with farms at this point. We started in 2018, so we've been working with farms all over the state of Rhode Island and throughout southeastern Massachusetts as well, from Hope Valley to Scituate to Raynham, Seekonk, and really across the state. So we've worked with about 30 farms altogether since we got started, and our farm partners are incredible, wonderful, generous people who are so excited to be able to donate product in a way that they weren't able to before, when it meant adding a lot of extra work onto their day. But we try and make it as easy as possible for them to do good. The other important group of people that we work with is volunteers, and that's a big part of this project, and I'll talk about that a little bit later. But we've partnered with many volunteers over the last 3 years, incredible, thoughtful, engaged, dedicated, hardworking volunteers who come out into the field when it's raining, when it's cold, when it's hot, and pick food and have a really great time doing it. And they get to learn about what we do, learn about food waste, learn about hunger relief, and also have a really nice outdoor activity that's social, that can be socially distanced. Yeah, we have a really, really lovely group of folks, and they're essential for being able to do this work. And then we partner with hunger relief agencies, and we love being able to draw more attention to the really important work that these agencies do to feed their community. They took on a lot of extra work this past year, and we want to support them as much as we can by making sure that they have fresh, healthy food available. So we're working with food pantries. We work with meal sites who are cooking food, although that's kind of different these days. And we also work with the Rhode Island Community Food Bank. We distribute to them, and they're actually also distributing food out to agencies, so we're able to bring larger volumes of food there. In terms of our impact and what we've been able to accomplish over the past few years, we're really proud that we've recruited over 600 volunteers. About 250 unique individuals have spent about 2,800 volunteer hours over the past 3 years, recovering about 330,000 pounds of fresh, healthy local fruits and vegetables. And like I said, we've worked with about 30 farms across Rhode Island and southeastern Massachusetts. We've distributed to 30 hunger relief agencies, and collectively they serve about 10,000 unique individuals per month. So that's big numbers, and we're doing that with, as I said, the help of all of these different community partners that we work with. Related to the URI Food Recovery for Rhode Island project, which again, we're thrilled to be part of, we are operating in that realm of food waste diversion, increasing food access, and then also providing education. And those are things that we all are doing in our day-to-day programming all of the time. We're working with volunteers, with the general public, and with farmers to ensure that we're making sure folks know about all of these issues and that they know how they can actually proactively, tangibly address them. Our goal for the Food Recovery for Rhode Island project is actually to increase our capacity to rescue surplus food. So we're going to be utilizing the expertise and dedication of URI Food Recovery volunteers to actually train them to take on leadership roles above and beyond that of our regular volunteers, and be able to actually lead gleaning trips out in the community. So we are excited to be able to bring these volunteers into our operation, train them, show them how, or you potentially show you how we do this work, and then create specialized sort of training materials on how to take on those additional leadership roles, and then have food recovery volunteers actually go out into the community and lead trips and get linked up with farms and farmers that we have great relationships with across the state. So in terms of our goals and what we're trying to accomplish, we're hoping that this project will increase the number of people who are trained to do this work, to do food recovery on farms. We want to be able to increase the number of trips that we do and the total number of volunteers and volunteer hours that are dedicated to this. People often think Rhode Island is not an ag state, right? Which it isn't. We're not Illinois. We're not, Idaho, but we do actually grow quite a lot of food, and there is quite a lot of farming happening in this state. And that means that there's much more food surplus on farms than you might expect. So people often will be like, well, what even is there? But I promise that even that 330,000 pounds that we've recovered, it's a very, very small proportion of what's actually out there. And being able to have more volunteers and more people who have the capacity to go out and recover that food can only increase the amount of food that's going into the emergency food system. So that's one of the things we're really excited about with this project, is trying to increase our capacity without necessarily increasing the size of the organization itself. we know who benefits from this work. So we see these three stakeholder groups that I mentioned, the farmers, the volunteers, and the agencies. And we try to think sort of systemically about how all of those organizations are benefiting from the work that we're doing. So farmers are learning about the benefits of donating food. They get increased sort of community standing, reputation in their community. They get to feel good. There's also potentially tax benefits there. And, you know, we find that farmers are really thrilled to be able to donate, and that's something they've wanted to do and often just didn't have the time or capacity to do it. Volunteers get to feel like they're making a difference. They learn about hunger and local ag, the realities of farm labor. It's incredibly difficult work. It's really informative for people to go out and do that, even for a few hours, to understand what goes into making sure we have abundant food available to us in grocery stores. And then strategies to increase resource use and distribution, just understanding stuff about that, I think is really helpful for people to see how easy it is to make sure people have what they need. And then obviously the agencies that we work with are really happy to have seasonal food available. They get more connection to local agriculture. They're able to better serve their guests. And there's obviously a community food security benefit that, you know, people have access to more nourishing food. And those guests are really happy about that. Yeah, so again, this project will basically just be training new volunteers and having these trip leaders, which we're super excited about. And yeah, we just are looking forward to deepening people's understanding of how to solve hunger with the abundance of resources that we actually have available to us in our ag community, with our dedicated volunteers who really care a lot, and with an emergency food system that makes a huge difference every day. So thank you so much for having me. I will give it back to Vanessa, and I'm excited to answer any questions.
Beautiful. Well, thank you all for listening. This was the first time we've had all of our community partners together and heard more detail about their projects from them, and I'm impressed. So hopefully you were impressed and you learned something more, and maybe it sparked an idea or sparked your interest in becoming involved. Thank you very much, Ava, and all of our panelists. At this time, we are happy to take questions. So the way to ask questions is to kind of comment right on that video, and I will send those questions along to our various panelists as you have them, whether these are questions for the URI Extension team or one of our community partners, to learn a little bit more about the course or perhaps about the projects that you just heard about within the community. And so we invite the first question. Oh, the other thing I'll mention is we did put the website right into the chat, our under development website. It's beautiful, but we're still working on it. So just wanted to mention that. So our first question, I'm a nonprofit organization interested in serving as a community partner. What's my next step? And so I will take this and then pass it to Amanda for any additional information, but we welcome you to send an email over. There is like a little process that we have in place in order to get you engaged, or whether or not this will be involved in our first iteration of the program or further down the line. We can kind of look at it strategically and figure out what works best for everyone involved. Dr. Missimer, anything to add to that?
No, we just welcome all collaborations because, you know, we do have some funding available, but we really want to have as much reach in the state as we can. So please reach out to us. We would love to talk to you and incorporate you in the project.
Yeah, and I think there's opportunities for organizations who are engaged in food recovery to serve as project sites, but also to kind of weigh in as experts on the curriculum. Can you talk a little bit about that, Dr. Missimer, in terms of that process?
Yeah, absolutely. So as we mentioned, we have this focus right now on farms, schools, and communities. But what we'd really like to do is gather more experts in the areas and start to really focus in on each one of those so we can have this large collection of really amazing guest lecturers from all across the state. So then if we do have people who are interested in really school-based communities, we would have more of an expertise in that, or farms or schools, or general communities. So we would really welcome anybody who wanted to join and provide expertise. If we haven't talked to you yet, we're dying to talk to you and learn more about what you're doing across our state. Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Missimer. Yeah, I'm excited about that, like pre-pilot kind of review process so that we can keep improving the course. We really see these first 3 iterations as our opportunity to just make it better and better every time and make sure all of the content's relevant and understandable to everyone who takes the course. So next question, please. Who can take this class and what's your intended audience? Well, I'll start by saying that it's open to all Rhode Islanders. And what we look for in this program are people who have an interest in the food system, but also for people who have that altruistic sense. So not just folks who want to learn about it for their own personal benefit, but those who want to go out in the community and serve as educators on those service projects. So the people who are really excited about that volunteer component. Typically it's adults. We will have undergrads engaged on our project team as an internship experience for various, that'll again add to all of the interdisciplinary nature of our project team. Dr. Missimer, anything else to add about who the audience is?
Yeah, that's a great point. So it's really open to all Rhode Islanders, as Vanessa mentioned, and we're really hoping to have all communities represented because we really think that's going to add a richness to the dialogue and the conversations that we're able to have in the class and then also in the community. And as Vanessa mentioned, we're going to be folding in both graduate and undergraduate students, really focusing on those undergrads. We really have already some wonderful students working with us. So we're excited to bring their thoughts and ideas and send them out into the community as well. So again, we're really just trying to make this a program for everyone because we realize that the area of food recovery in terms of the twin challenges may be a new area to a lot of us, something that a lot of people can use some more education on. And it's very timely given, the environmental concerns and food access issues that we're having today. So we're ready to roll in the community. Come on down.
Great. Next question. Oh, Maria, hey girl. How will this program be introduced to BIPOC communities to make sure there is diversity within this program? Yes, we really did want to have an equity lens, and thank you so much for asking. So I think the biggest piece will be connecting to the community through our community partners who we see as our ambassadors back to their communities. These are organizations that know their constituents well and are trusted and have those built relationships. So that way, the information can flow. And I think also that peer educator model will be really crucial in terms of folks from communities that may be vulnerable or are affected by the issues we mentioned earlier, going through the course and returning to their own communities as peer educators, adding that element of trust and that's so important when sharing information that's then adopted in those behavior changes. Dr. Missimer, anything to add? I just keep throwing it back to you.
Yeah, no, that's great. I actually just wanted to back up on that too. With our peer educator model is actually borrowed from another program that I'm lucky enough to work in called FNEP, which is the Expanded Food Nutrition Education Program. And it provides nutrition education and physical activity to individuals across Rhode Island. And what's really special about that program is they use the peer educator model. So that means individuals are trained on this nutrition education, physical activity education, and they return to like individuals, like community members, and provide that information to really create that trust and applicability. So that helps us with creating recipes and going to these areas and really having an impact from that community-driven lens.
And I think the beauty also of having EPA support as we develop this program is that we had the ability to build stipends into some of the financial support that's going out to our community partners, so individuals can receive funding and support towards their participation in the course, whether that's as an instructor, whether that's leading a service project. Do any of our community partners want to weigh in on that equity lens? I know all of you are really focused on that. Maybe I could go to each of you. Is that okay? I'll start with Melanie, who spoke first.
Sure. I mean, I think that it goes without saying all of the partners here use the equity lens when we frame all of our work. It's important for us to uplift and empower voices that maybe haven't had that setting to do so. I think through this work, like you said, having the peer educator model, we make sure that we're getting in touch with everybody. And I think that it's super, super important. So I'm very excited to get that going. So.
Thank you, Melanie. Amelia or Katie, would you like to talk a little bit about that lens? And I also would love for you to speak a bit about the green team and the youth development focus that you'll have through your project.
Yeah, so I can take that, and Katie can add if she wants to. We do plan on having our youth high school green team we be part of the course as well. We hope to be paying stipend using the sub grant that we received through this partnership to pay a stipend to green team members as well as some staff, some of whom are Black and Brown BIPOC from BIPOC communities. We try to have a diverse staff in addition to the communities that we work in. And so we will, that's a big, an important feature for us as part of this is not having necessarily people from outside the community coming in and doing all the volunteer work, but making sure that we're building the capacity and the leadership of the communities themselves that we work in, where we have our composting sites to be able to make sure that folks are represented. So that's a big feature for us and goal.
Yeah, I think the only thing that I would have to add to that is that we are certainly going to be actively recruiting for this class in the communities that we work in and with the community that we have built around our project, which is a very diverse community. And I think we're probably not alone. Like I imagine Melanie and Ava will be doing the same. And that's really important to us that we're not just going to be, teaching whoever is sent to us, but we're really going to be going out and trying to make sure people know about this.
Absolutely. And a lot of our community partners that we had on that list will be doing that community engagement as well. For example, Tamaulipas Museum will be reaching out to Indigenous communities to engage them in the course and let them know about it. Okay, Ava, could you talk a little bit about the equity lens and the way Hope's Harvest looks at this work?
Yeah, we have an equity lens when we're thinking about a lot of different aspects. And I think, as I mentioned, the different stakeholders that we work with volunteers, we also work with agencies and with farms. And so within the context of this project, we're open in terms of anyone who wants to participate and doing outreach and making sure that we're telling the community and doing outreach, with our agency partners, making sure that they know that this is something that's available. We're also really committed to working with BIPOC farmers. We not only accept donated produce, but we also contract with growers and we pay for surplus product when it's available. And so we have a goal of having at least 50% of those contracts and those expenditures going to BIPOC farms. So it's a little outside the scope of this, but it is something that we're really deeply committed to as an organization, and we think about and work towards on a regular basis.
Thank you so much. And Dr. Missimer, I know sometimes when we're delivering a course, there's a way to think through, is this material digestible? We'll use a food pun. Is it understandable to everyone and the context that they come from? We really want the content to be accessible for the course. And can you talk about that from the curriculum design lens, please?
Yeah, absolutely. And thanks for that food pun. That's important to me. So we will have reviewers from across the community at all levels reviewing this course to make sure that we, again, are meeting people where they are. So I know that's something I've been personally working on in my forward community-facing language and presentation. So I'm really looking forward to having each one of our community partners send different individuals from their communities to review our course before it goes out. So we make sure that it's understandable, it's culturally relevant, we're able to infuse different things, like I mentioned, recipes and traditions and all of that awesome stuff that really makes Rhode Island special and this program special. So that is absolutely a focused lens. And also the continued conversation and dialogue of everything that is brought to us. I do want to do a little bit of a shout out to Vanessa, who's done absolutely incredible work with the Master Gardener program in terms of bringing equity, diversity, inclusion, and social justice into her program. And we plan on folding all of those pieces into this course as well.
That's right. And we have some great support from the Office of Community Equity and Diversity. So Dr. Joanna Ravello, one of the components of the course, will be training all of our volunteers in inclusive community engagement and starting that discussion about what does it mean when you enter the community with the title URI and all that comes along with it, and kind of that social identity, power, and privilege. I mean, we're getting into a lot here, but I just want to shout out to Maria Salient, who is the co-chair of our Social Justice, Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion task force, who just asked that question for the Master Gardener program. So thank you for asking the question.
Vanessa,
Okay,
can I add something really quickly?
yes, please do.
So something that I was remembering that's really important is that sort of American society today is one of the most wasteful cultures in the world in terms of food waste, and especially folks who are recent immigrants from other places or who have been imbued in other cultures often have a lot to share about food recovery and using food well. And we only teach compost workshops. We've never taught a food recovery workshop in the past, but when we teach compost workshops, we always try to focus on knowledge sharing rather than just knowledge giving, because a lot of times there are composting methods from other cultures that we might not know about that are, will teach us something and that can give us more information. And having a sharing sort of back and forth where everybody can bring in the piece of knowledge that they do know, and then everything can kind of be added together to give some perspective, makes for a really exciting and stimulating conversation.
Yes, and the online format has been kind of one of the beautiful things that came out of this past year. People are really engaged online, and we're able to have people go through the course in a smaller cohort, so that really stimulates conversation as they're taking in the information and then applying it to their own lives and kind of reflecting on it with others. So I do really see this course kind of stimulating that community conversation around wasted food solutions. Okay, next question, please. Hi, Jeff. Can volunteers' hours this summer count towards the certification? I'm planning to volunteer with Hope's Harvest. I love these questions. I think it'll probably be, well, I'm so glad you're volunteering with Hope's Harvest, and you'll bring a lot of experience to the course if you participate. I think at this point, it'll be volunteer hours after you take the course, but I'm sure we can look at things on a case-by-case basis. Next question, please. Mark says, do you have any commitments from Rhode Island municipal governments to participate in this project? If not, are you open to this, and how do you envision working with them? I love this question because that has been one of the unanticipated things that municipalities have approached us. So one in particular that was interested in kind of collaborating was the South Kingstown Sustainability Group. I'm sorry, I'm not coming up with your exact name. I think it's the committee. And they were interested in participating by sending committee members or community members through the course. So that could kind of stoke the conversation, like we said, among those community members and lead to efforts within that municipality. So this could kind of be like your gearing everybody up, training everybody who you want to be involved in some sort of food recovery initiative, and then deploying them out back into your own community. So we do see municipalities as potential partners in the future, absolutely. Okay, any other questions? I think we have two more, we said. Kelly, have there been any discussion with potential partners on Aquidneck Island? We know there's amazing work going on around food recovery, and so I made sure to, over on the island, so I made sure to reach out personally to a lot of the organizations that we know and invited them to this webinar to learn more, because we think that you have a lot to share in terms of serving as like a model community with all the good work that you're doing. So everyone going through here can kind of learn about what's working, what the successes are within the state, and how they might be able to implement that. So I could see a lot of these organizations serving as instructors and potentially as service project sites as well, whether that's now or in the future. We can have that discussion offline. We'd love to chat with you. Bless you. Jeff, yes, so Clean Ocean Access has a great Healthy Soils composting program. Will you work with them? That's one of the ones that we made sure to reach out to Clean Ocean Access, because we know they're doing amazing work out on Aquidneck Island, and we'd love to feature them as instructors or serve as service project sites. So yes, we are interested. Okay, so it looks like we're getting the cue, time to wrap up. I want to thank all these wonderful women for participating and sharing not only how you'll be collaborating with us, but just like more in-depth information about the food system. I really think that this course will be a way for folks to get a hands-on look at. You'll be on a farm, you'll be in a kitchen cooking, you'll be canning food. You're really going to see the whole localized food system from farm to plate, and we just invite you to participate with us in so many different ways. So I will give my little thank you everyone for your attention. We look forward to connecting with you to take individual and collective action to strengthen the local food system. Now a few closing words from Catherine Flynn.
Wow, thank you, Vanessa. That was amazing. Thank you to all the panelists for the day. I know I learned a lot. I'm sure everybody did. Again, I'm Catherine Flynn from the University of Rhode Island Business Engagement Center. I want to especially thank Leah Cooper from the Harrington School of Communications and Media for helping us today with the technology for the event. I thought it went great. And for the staff of the Business Engagement Center and the Food Center at URI for helping make these events possible. Again, thanks to all people who have attended our Food Summit and our follow-on events. Please visit the Rhode Island Food Center at URI website for more information about the Food Summit in case you missed anything or would like more information about the Food Center, and of course, Cooperative Extension as well. Thank you all for attending the event, and have a great rest of your day.